if you're reading the book, then you know that Xi Jinping has made radical changes to China's military over the past 13 years since he came into power. He's reorganized it. Certainly, he's reshuffled the top Chinese military. He's modeled it in many cases on the U.S. Joint structure. And he's certainly increased and advanced China's military hardware capabilities. So he's transformed. He's been a transformative military leader. That being said, of course, we've also watched these purges of the senior military leadership, most recently at the fourth plenum. And it's very unclear, sort of the readiness of the Chinese military, certainly at the top, to take any kind of military action moving forward. So just the constant roiling of the senior Chinese military leadership, I think, is a real challenge for Xi Jinping and the party leadership.
Liz, Paul Sweeney brought this up brilliantly this morning. The basic idea is we all have a perspective of Taiwan, and maybe it's Chiang Kai-shek and Mrs. Chiang Kai-shek coming to Washington, and then on to this and Nixon and Kissinger and all that. Is this a fulcrum point where Taiwan is actually under threat?
Look, there's no doubt that Taiwan is under threat, and over the past several years, the rhetoric out of Beijing and the military activity around Taiwan, the air flights, the sort of crossings in the Taiwan Strait over the median line have only increased. And I think what we saw, just over the past few weeks was Prime Minister of Japan, Takaichi, when she said that if China were to take military action against Taiwan, Japan could be forced itself to take some sort of military action, that China came out very hot and said Japan had crossed a red line, and that, it started, the banning, boycotting Japanese seafood, Japanese films, etc. And so I think there's no doubt, Xi Jinping has said he wants the Chinese military to be prepared to take action by 2027. That doesn't mean that they're going to launch any kind of military invasion in 2027. He's just put that down as a marker for when he would want the military to be prepared to take Taiwan. So I'll just say I was in mainland China, just came back Saturday. And one of the things that our delegation heard was from a retired senior foreign policy official that China's not prepared to wait 200 years, and that it is prepared to take any form of military action. So I think the heat is it's only getting hotter for Taiwan at this point.
Elizabeth, President Trump and President Xi have been on again, off again, having discussions on trade. What's the perception within China of President Trump, this administration, and maybe the policies as it relates to China?
I think, look, that there's still a sense within China that President Trump can be very unpredictable. They see some openings with President Trump, and I think the recent phone call that was initiated by Xi Jinping is evidence that, Xi Jinping wanted to send a message about Taiwan, certainly, that Taiwan is part of China and doesn't want the United States to wade into this, Japan, mainland China brouhaha. But I think he was also probing to see whether President Trump might be willing to do something on Taiwan, especially in the wake of this, U.S.-Russia negotiation over Ukraine and that initial peace plan that they put forth. Is there something that President Trump and President Xi could discuss on Taiwan when they meet in April? So I think, the perception in China is that President Trump is a deal maker, that he's willing to put everything on the table and to trade things in and out. And so I think that's what they're looking to assess now.
Do you believe, from the U.S. perspective, that putting things on the table would include Taiwan? Do we have any indication President Trump would consider that?
I think there's always concern when it comes to President Trump's commitment to Taiwan. He's never come out and said that Taiwan is a very valuable partner for the United States. He's been critical of Taiwan on some fronts. I think what we do know is that Secretary Rubio and Secretary Hegseth have been very strong in their support of Taiwan, very strong in their commitment to our Indo-Pacific allies and partners, and to sort of a continued U.S. dominant presence in the Indo-Pacific, in the security space. place. So, it's unclear. I think we've seen a fracturing to some extent of this administration on the Russia issue. It's not impossible that we'd have a similar fracturing on the Taiwan-China issue.
Elizabeth Economy with us, an extended conversation, of course, with the Hoover Institution and Stanford University. Margie Patel, Chris Whalen coming up, and later we'll be looking at the gambling across America. Dr. Economy, The World According to China, your must-read. You say, rewriting the rules of the game. My China 101, also learned at the altar of Elizabeth Economy, is that presidents have a 4-year window, an 8-year window. China has a 20, 30-year x-axis. Rewriting the rules of the game, one of your chapters here. Does President Xi, has he shortened the China exit, or are they playing the long game each and every day?
He's certainly playing the long game, as you say, each and every day. And, they continue to invest in all the resources and capabilities that they need to, win the game over to 2035 to 2049. And you see this in all the targets and timetables that they put forth, for example, and how they're going to achieve global technology dominance. But it also plays out across, a range of areas, whether we're talking about the Arctic or space or deep seabed mining or de-dollarizing the global economy. They're constantly putting, markers out for the future, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years out. What do they want to achieve? How are they going to get there? They have a long-term vision and a long-term strategy to achieve that vision. So this is the long game. And, Xi Jinping doesn't see himself exiting anytime soon. So I think we can count on at least another 5-year term beginning in 2027 for Xi Jinping. And after that, I imagine he'll still want to, at least be in the background, guiding the next leaders of China.